Turbo noises are fucking cool.
Naturally aspirated versus boosted. I feel like this is a topic that every car enthusiast eventually gets to at some point in their life. Some people are just all diehard, you know, big V8, V10, V12, whatever it is. And some people are like diehard, you know, like the BMW, like a G80, you know,
yeah.
they want the boosted inline six or something like that. My brother and I have two different cars, and they're ironically in the two different categories. Which, what do you drive?
So I have a 718 Porsche GT4. So naturally aspirated.
Yep.
Inline six. The crazy part is actually, now that I'm thinking about it, 35K to like 100K.
Yeah.
Most of them are turboed.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of cars today are all about pushing out high numbers.
Yep.
Right? And the cheaper way is to get a smaller engine and throw a turbo on it. Are the main call outs of the differences, right?
Yeah.
One is just the power delivery.
Yeah.
How the car actually delivers the car. And I think even more important, I think the more standout one is the sound.
Yeah.
Right. Those two things go hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
The sound is dictated by the power delivery.
Yeah.
That top part. Whereas I think, and that's the other thing, right? To not give it away. Turbos sound cool.
Yeah.
Hearing the flutter of the turbo or just the spool,
yeah.
It sounds fucking cool. So it's not that I think one is better than the other. Maybe we'll give that at the end of it. Yeah. But like, they're two different things.
You know what the crazy part is though? I think you go from naturally aspirated to turbo, and then you really enjoy the turbo sounds.
That's true.
And then you learn to appreciate the naturally aspirated even more. Yeah. It's kind of like you're going back and forth, or you kind of go here and you're like, huh, like, it was kind of cool when it just sounded raw and to the point. To kind of just get into the episode, we're gonna be kind of just going over each car and then kind of comparing them at the very end. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure to drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel, and let's get into it. Now, this is a 2020 Mercedes C63S. These cars previously, like a decade ago, used to come with naturally aspirated engine. It was a big, like 5.3 liter, big V8, and then they ended up switching to boosted, which most cars nowadays, including all the competitors, have done. So now it is a bi-turbo, it's a 4 liter V8, and it still sounds like a V8. So kind of just starting off, right, power band. Like how the car actually puts down the power. A lot of cars have 500 horsepower. Yeah. They do not put it down the exact same. Yeah. Like every single car has a different way of putting down the power. And
let's just say you're not a car person, right?
Yeah.
You're average Joe. And you're like, yeah, that one pushes out 500 horsepower, that one pushes out 500 horsepower.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, but they kind of feel different. You're like, what?
Yeah, like what do you mean?
You know, I feel like it's one of those things, it's hard to describe it.
You really had to get behind the wheel.
Person.
Yeah, you have to get behind the wheel and actually drive it.
Yeah.
For power band, again, boosted cars normally have a sweet spot in their power band where you feel the actual boost. I know this car, you can put boost gauges up on the screen right here, and you can literally see in real time exactly what it's doing and when it's actually getting full boost and full power.
Yeah. And
I already know my car, right? Most people that have boosted cars, they know exactly where that boost point is. That way, if you want to take off, you know, on the freeway or whatever it is, you can kind of already know, okay, if I stay here, you know, I can take off as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, you've driven this car. How do you like the power band? Or what's the big distinguishing factor between NA and boosted?
It's fun, especially because once you get a good idea of what an NA car feels like, you really actually start to appreciate more of the little things in this car.
Yeah.
Right? Having that sweet spot, it kind of sounds like a pain in the ass, and it can be a pain in the ass, because I've seen so many videos on social media where they're like, nah, you didn't get me in the right spot. I need to be in second gear at 6,000, so like, which I get it, and it's cool, and like that's just how the car works, you know?
Transitioning to the sound, or
yeah.
what sound does the car make, right?
Yeah.
On a power band note, I will say that this car redlines at 7,000 RPM. Most cars that aren't boosted will redline significantly higher than that. But due to the fact that it doesn't have a super high red line, the noise is kind of cut out, and this is where you start sacrificing a little bit of noise for a boosted car.
For performance,
yeah,
really.
for performance. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love it in this car, because you still get a big V8 and then you start getting like a turbo whistle along with it.
Yeah.
So I absolutely love it, but I can definitely see why people wouldn't like this. This exact car, right, in 2014 or whatever year, still had an NA. You can put full bolt-ons, meaning, you know, headers, exhaust, intake. You can do the full 9 yards on that car, and that car will maybe hit from 500 to like 540 wheel horsepower, right?
Yeah.
These boosted cars, their power figures can go significantly higher with simple modifications.
Yeah.
So I know like these cars with just intakes, some downpipes, you're able to literally hit 600-700 wheel horsepower. That's 100 to 200 wheel horsepower above the stock figure.
Yeah.
And that's maybe a $5,000 investment compared to like doing the same exact thing on an NA car. You don't get that much power.
Yeah.
So that's like another reason why a lot of people will go for a boosted car. And that's the reason why I'm sure manufacturers chose boosted over NA these last couple of years, because you could just make so much more power effortlessly.
Turbo noises are fucking cool.
Yeah.
There's no getting away from that.
Yeah.
Like the sound of a turbo, especially my favorite is an SR engine.
Yeah.
So like the old Nissans.
Yeah.
Man, those flutters. Insane.
Yeah.
Right? And they can be fun as fuck to drive.
Yeah.
I got into a real naturally aspirated car now, right?
Yeah.
I got a 2020 Porsche GT4 with an inline 6.
Yep.
Naturally aspirated, revs to 8,000. That shit is crazy.
Yeah.
So let's get into that.
Oh, dude, getting into Porsche seats, if you have never done it before in your life and you're not just really skinny, trust me, it's a little difficult. I'm not even that big of a dude, but
I've told like the average person, like average friends, I'm like, it's hard to get in. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, just get in, because it's hard to explain.
Yeah.
And they get in and they put their ass right on the edge of the bucket seats and they're like, ah. I'm like, I told you.
Or even to get out, dude, it feels like you gotta put one, it's like a process. You gotta put one hand out, you gotta push up, and like if you can't do a push up, I feel bad for you. Porsche GT4.
You're right. So this is a 718, so 2020, pushes out 420 horsepower. A naturally aspirated car, it doesn't matter where you are. You can
take off absolutely anywhere.
Take off and do whatever you want.
A linear power band, it feels like it's working the momentum all the way up.
Yep.
And towards the very end, you start feeling like the engine wants to pull more. Specifically in this car.
Yeah.
This car is redline hungry, and I think most naturally aspirated cars are redline hungry.
Yeah.
And the noise that it makes at the very end is just phenomenal.
I mean, it's crazy, right? Because so we talked about how your car naturally shifts at like 6,500 RPM, give or take, right? This redline's at 8,000 RPM. And I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but I think if you know cars, you understand that like every 500 or so in the revs is a big difference. And it's like you're just getting different sound and different sound and different sound.
Yeah.
And so when you're talking about a naturally aspirated car and like you get to, you know, the higher end here, it's that top part that's just like that is like our version of a turbo noise.
Yeah.
You know?
Like that's the high you're trying to reach.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1000%.
And it's funny because I know you given the example before, but we all start off with naturally aspirated cars.
Yeah, 1000%.
The only thing is that they fucking suck because they're not real sports cars. They don't push any power out. You know, like my first car was like a Celica and then a Scion TC. So it's like, that's just getting me from point A to point B. And so an exhaust is kind of what makes me happy there.
Yeah.
You look forward to the turbo car. Yeah. Because it's just the easiest way to kind of get power out of cars.
I mean, I feel like that's how like traditionally everyone goes. Some people will start with a V6 that only has 200 horsepower. Yeah. And you're like, oh, this 4-cylinder pushes 300. Yeah. Right. And then you look forward to that. You finally get that car, and yeah, I mean, it has the boost point. It takes off quicker. Like everything's better. Yeah. But I find it funny, right? When you start looking at people that can afford like super expensive cars. Yeah. A lot of them say you eventually resort back to a naturally aspirated car. Yeah. That's why they call it like
a Porsche.
Yeah. I mean, basically, a lot of people are upset, and it's usually I think the younger generation is upset with Porsche because they don't push that much power. Yeah. But I'd argue they have some of the best sounding cars, and they're naturally aspirated. So the experience of driving the car is actually amazing in comparison to a lot of these turbo cars.
When it comes to like the actual performance of it, I don't really care to race and like be the winner and whatnot. Like I want to enjoy it, and that performance difference of like getting to the red line goes straight to the sound also. Yeah. Because the sound is also different.
So I'll add one thing, right? With boosted cars, there's two things that people absolutely hate about boosted cars, which is the turbo lag and heat soak. Right? If it is a hot day and you're driving a boosted car, you like literally feel the car sluggish. Yep. Like it feels absolutely terrible. And then we just spoke about like turbo lag, right? Which in a nutshell, it's like if you're not in the right RPM, you're not gonna take off anywhere near as efficient as an NA car. But I actually love kind of just thinking, and you asked me this the other day where it was like, I mean, what are the best sounding cars out there? Yeah. And
like quick.
Yeah.
Give me the top 3 cars.
I would say A12 Superfast, SVJ, and an LFA.
Yep.
See, I'm a McLaren advocate, and I fucking love McLarens, and that's ultimately the goal one day is to own one. But I will say they don't come close to the naturally aspirated cars. They don't come close to the Porsches, the Huracans. They don't come close to the SVJs and things like that. Yeah. Which is unfortunate, but that's kind of the trade-off that you get when you're getting significantly more power. Yeah. To kind of end this off a little bit, we're gonna talk about just comparing the two. So let's go do that. So one thing that we didn't mention throughout the whole episode is the reliability aspect when it comes to boosted versus naturally aspirated. Yeah. Now, for example, I'll give the Huracan, because they call the Huracan the Honda Civic of supercars, right? So when you see everywhere, but it's the one that's bulletproof. It's the one that doesn't break down. Yeah. Where any McLaren is known as like the Maserati of supercars, you know, just because they're known for being so unreliable. And a lot of that could just be because of the forced induction. I mean, the CLA 45, when you bought it, I don't know if you remember when they were upselling you on the warranty. Yeah. They were like, hey,
they tell you up front.
Yeah, they tell you up front, hey, yo, just letting you know the turbos are actually common things to go out on these cars, and they're not cheap. I would highly recommend it. Yeah, I would highly recommend the warranty. Yeah. They told me the same thing when I was taking out my C63. They're like, hey, you know, just letting you know, this warranty could come in clutch, because, you know, it costs $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, but one turbo replacement costs X amount, so it could save you a lot in the long run.
Yeah, and I mean, same thing with the Porsches. The Porsches are naturally aspirated, and that's why those cars are known for like reliability. You don't have issues.
Yeah, they're known for being very bulletproof.
You get into the other cars, you know, in the range, when you deal with with turbochargers, the GTR, I know, again, not that reliable. Yeah. That one has transmission issues, but still, there's a pattern of common reliability issues when it comes to like the cars that are not naturally aspirated, right? So the boosted cars. So when all is said and done, what would you rather choose?
I mean, I'll be honest, my dream car is the 720 or 765 LT, so I think I would lean towards that, but I do feel like I can already kind of foresee it that in the future, when I'm like, you know, 35 and I've already experienced all these cars, I do think I will eventually revert back to like a GT3 RS. Even that car, 991 or 992, they're fucking crazy cars. Yeah. And I hear the driving experience of that car. And then again, I'm pretty sure I said it earlier in this video, you put headers on a Porsche, and it's like damn near the closest thing you can get to like an F1 car. Yeah. Like the pitch that they give you when they rev all the way up to 9,000 RPM is insane. It's unmatched. Like it's like nothing else on the road. Yeah. What about you?
So I definitely want a McLaren. I don't think I'd want a 720S, to be honest. I don't think I'd get to that point. I want a 600 LT, and I think after that I'd probably just stick to Porsche, to be honest. And this is like a me. I think this is me, and that's why I said it comes down to preference. Yeah. Me as like a person, I like to stick to what I like. Yeah. I don't really like to do everything. Yeah. You know, once I find something like, damn, this checks off all my boxes, I'm good.
Yeah, I will say, right, to kind of summarize this and put it in a whole, it does come down to personal preference, but I feel like the personal preference in a nutshell is if you want a faster car, inevitably you're probably going to be in a boosted car. Yeah, for sure. And if speed is not really your concern and handling and the experience is more what you're after, I genuinely believe that you'll eventually end up either in a Porsche or perhaps a Lamborghini Huracan. Yeah. I think the naturally aspirated is the experience. And not to say that boosted cars don't have an experience, because they definitely do, but it's a different type of experience.
Yeah. The one last call out here, other than trying to shout out my dog in the back there. Yeah. Even boosted cars, right? All the engines turbo are different. Yeah. Right? You got like the SR in the Nissans and the B58s and the BMWs and so on and so on. So like even with that, just that realm, there's so much variety.
Yeah. We'll pretty much wrap it up there. If you guys did enjoy this episode, make sure to drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.